did actually bother to cast their ballots across the European bloc. At one point it was tipped to be even lower than that. Now, a good night for governing centre-right groups. They conquered in France, Italy, Poland and in Germany. And we're going to go to Germany now because our correspondent Damien McGuinness joins us live from Berlin. Damien, a good night then for the governing centre-right, but the Socialists took a real bashing.
Absolutely, Hannah. It was an absolute disaster for the Socialists. They got a mere 21%, which is the worst result the Socialist Party here in Germany has ever had in any nationwide election. This doesn't bode well for the general elections, which are due in September 27th. Now, the Socialists are going to have to regroup and reform and rethink their strategy. And the result came as somewhat of a surprise because a lot of people here did think that the left-wing parties could at least gain some sort of capital from the economic crisis. After all, the Social Democrats led their campaign on the European elections saying that it's thanks to right-wing parties that this economic crisis started in the first place. But it seems the voters didn't like that, and they voted for right-wing parties. And it appears that, according to some analysts, this is because voters really have more faith in the Conservative camp when it comes to fixing the economy. But as you say, a really catastrophic result for the Socialists here in Germany.
Well, slightly breaking the trend somewhat, Damien, at least Germany, because, of course, if you, for example, compare it to Britain, where the left-wing government did take a huge knock as well, here in France, so the Socialists didn't do very well. But unlike these examples, in Germany, the far-right parties didn't do well either.
Well, that's right. Not one far-right extremist party managed to get past the 5% hurdle, which you need to get into the European Parliament. So this is good news for the mainstream parties, because there was a worry that maybe right-wing extremist parties could benefit again from the uncertainty caused by the economic crisis. However, it also has to be said that the main right-wing extremist party, the NPD, didn't actually field a candidate. So there wasn't really a big expectation they'd do well. The main result we did see, though, is that the smaller parties which did profit included the Green Party. They got more than 12%. So it did seem that although the mainstream parties, the Christian Democrats, they did win, but they got less than they did last time round, and the Social Democrats got a real battering, as you said. But it did seem that the smaller parties, or that voters were rejecting the mainstream big parties and were going for smaller parties, but not the right-wing extremist parties, more the Green Party.
OK, Damien McGuinness, sadly we have to leave it there. That's our correspondent there joining us from Berlin. We're now actually going to go to Dublin in Ireland because vote counting is ending there. Let's talk to our correspondent Hervé Emmerich. He joins us now from Dublin. Dublin, forgive me, Hervé. It seems unlike in Germany, unlike here on the continent, actually the centre-right there did do badly.
Yes, we can't do like anybody else here. Behind me, the election count is just over in Dublin, and it's not good news for the Prime Minister, Brian Cowen, because his party has just lost its only MEP in Dublin, the capital. It's obviously a symbolic defeat for Brian Cowen, the Prime Minister. It's the first time since Ireland joined the EU back in 1973 that the main government party, Fianna Fáil, is not going to have an MEP in the capital. And there is a swing to the left here, because the candidate who got the seat is a hard left man candidate, and he's opposed to the Lisbon Treaty, which raises the question, how can Brian Cowen, the Prime Minister, lead a campaign to ratify the Lisbon Treaty in the second referendum when it's held in the autumn if he can't get an MEP elected in his own capital? Certainly it will be difficult for him, and Brian Cowen will have lost some of his authority in this election campaign, Hannah.
OK, now, Hervé, what about the group Libertas, then? How did they do?
Not as well as they had thought, because Declan Ganley, their leader, has just asked for a recount of the votes in the Northwest constituency where he's standing, but it doesn't look likely that he's going to be elected, because with the partial results we had last night, he arrived fourth in a three-seater constituency, 10,000 votes behind the third candidate. It looks very unlikely that he will be able to get one single candidate in Ireland, and he certainly will lose credibility if he's facing the ballot box and he's not able to get elected. His movement will lose credibility to front the no campaign when comes the second referendum in the autumn. But that's probably the only piece of good news that Prime Minister Brian Cowen will have today.
OK, Hervé Emmerich, talking to us there from Dublin. Thank you very much for that fascinating, the mixed bag of results then from both Germany and Ireland after those European